America, the land of opportunity, home to dreams, ambitions, and over 334 million people. Yet, hidden in plain sight, vast stretches of this country remain eerily empty. How can that be? Picture this: the lights of New York City, a pulsating, never-sleeping metropolis packed with millions. Now imagine that single city housing more people than 9 entire states combined. Yes, 9. These states, some larger than entire countries, are almost forgotten, unseen, and unspoken about. This isn't just about population numbers, it's a question of survival, of human nature. What makes these places so inhospitable? What keeps people away? Is it the brutal winters that freeze the soul? The harsh, isolating landscapes that make even the strongest feel small? Or is there something deeper, a secret history, a hidden truth that America doesn't talk about? Let me ask you this. Could you live in a place where your nearest neighbor is miles away, where winter temperatures plunge so low your breath freezes midair, where the silence is so profound it almost feels alive? For most people, the answer is no. And that's why these states remain some of the emptiest places in the United States. But emptiness isn't just about the land, it's about the people who leave and never return. These states are caught in a paradox. Despite their breathtaking beauty and untouched resources, they repel more than they attract. And that brings us to a bigger question: is this emptiness by choice, or is it by design? Think about it. These states are rich with potential. Fertile farmland stretches for miles, mountains touch the sky, and natural resources are abundant. So why don't people flock to these regions? Why do they choose crowded cities over the allure of space, freedom, and opportunity? Is it fear, or is there something darker at play, something most of us don't see? Here's the twist. This isn't just about geography, it's about survival, identity, and the limits of human resilience. It's about how far we're willing to go to escape isolation. But there's a price to pay for that escape, and these states bear the scars of that choice. Imagine this. You wake up in a place where the silence is deafening. No traffic, no voices, no footsteps echoing down the street. Just nothing. You step outside and the world feels vast, endless. At first it's freeing. But then it hits you: there's no one coming. There's no one here at all. Humans are social creatures. We thrive in community. We find comfort in connection. And yet, in these 9 states, connection feels like a distant dream. For those who stay, every day is a test of endurance. For those who leave, it's a race to find something more. Over the next few minutes, we're going to explore the 9 emptiest states in America. Each one has its own story, its own reasons for being left behind. Some are victims of brutal weather. Others suffer from geographic isolation. And a few, well, let's just say their secrets might surprise you. But here's what I want from you. As we dive into each state, I want you to think about this. Could you live there? Could you trade the chaos of the city for the quiet of the wilderness? Drop your answers in the comments below. And if you've ever been to one of these states, I want to know your story. Here's the thing about these states: they're not just empty, they're forgotten. Most of us drive through them, fly over them, or ignore them altogether. But what happens when a place becomes so empty it starts to disappear? What happens when the lights go out and no one notices? From the frozen forests of Maine to the endless plains of Wyoming, we're uncovering the stories of America's empty states. And trust me, you're not going to believe what we found. Before we get started, I've got a challenge for you. Can you guess the emptiest state in America? Think carefully. It's not as obvious as you think. Type your guess in the comments and let's see how many of you get it right. And don't just stop there. Hit that like button if you're ready to uncover the untold truth about these forgotten corners of the US. Let's get started. Counting down from number 9 is Maine. Maine, the northernmost state on the East Coast, a land of breathtaking beauty where mystical pine forests meet glacial lakes and moose roam freely in the wild. At first glance, it seems like a dream come true, but here's the twist: Maine is one of the emptiest states in America. Why? Maine is home to just 1.385 million people. That's less than the population of San Diego. And here's something even more shocking: 89% of the state is covered in untouched forest. Despite its charm and proximity to urban hubs like Boston, Maine feels forgotten. But why? Why do so few people choose to live here? The answer lies in its extremes: extreme beauty, extreme isolation, and extreme weather. Let's start with the most obvious reason: winter. Maine's winters are nothing short of legendary. Temperatures often plunge below zero, and snowstorms can last for days, burying entire towns. The roads? Treacherous. The heating bills? Astronomical. It's no wonder people leave. But the weather is just the beginning. Maine's economy is another challenge. While Portland, a charming coastal city, has a decent job market, the rest of the state struggles to provide opportunities. Many young people leave in their 20s seeking better prospects in nearby states like Massachusetts or New York. Living in Maine is a test of resilience. Imagine waking up at 5 a.m. to shovel snow just to make it out of your driveway. Imagine cutting firewood all summer to survive the brutal cold of winter. Every day is a reminder that nature is both beautiful and unforgiving. For some, this life is rewarding, a connection to the land, a slower pace. But for many, it's a challenge they'd rather avoid. And that's why Maine's population remains stagnant, with more people leaving than arriving. So here's the big question. Could you live here? Could you trade the convenience of city life for the rugged beauty and solitude of Maine? Drop your answer in the comments below. Isolation. For some, it's peaceful. For others, it's terrifying. In northern Maine, your nearest neighbor might be miles away. If a storm hits, it could be days before help arrives. Could you handle that kind of solitude? Or would it slowly drive you mad? Maine is a paradox, a state of stunning natural beauty, but one that demands strength and sacrifice from its residents. For those who stay, it's home. For everyone else, it's just too much. Number 8, Montana. Montana, big sky country, a land so vast and beautiful it feels almost surreal. It's larger than Japan, but home to just 1.12 million people. That's less than the population of San Antonio. Why is Montana so empty? Let's find out. At first glance, Montana has everything you'd want in a place to live: stunning scenery, open spaces, and a slower pace of life. But here's the conflict. For most people, Montana isn't a dream. It's a challenge. The reasons why are as vast as the land itself. The first problem: Montana is isolated, really isolated. Some towns are hours away from the nearest Walmart or hospital. For younger generations, this lack of convenience is a deal breaker. The second issue: the economy. While Montana is a paradise for ranchers and outdoors enthusiasts, it doesn't offer much for tech workers, artists, or entrepreneurs. Millennials and Gen Z aren't interested in cowboy life. They want city amenities and high-paying jobs, which Montana just can't provide. Life in Montana is tough, but rewarding for those who embrace it. Ranching, farming, and outdoor tourism dominate the economy. But the work is hard, the hours are long, and the winters, they're brutal. For some, Montana offers freedom, a chance to live off the land and escape the chaos of urban life. For others, it's simply too much. The endless winters, the isolation, the lack of opportunities, it all adds up. So here's the challenge. Could you handle living in Montana? Could you trade convenience for adventure? Type your thoughts in the comments below. Montana tests your limits. It's a place where survival isn't guaranteed. If your car breaks down on a remote road, help could be hours or even days away. It's beautiful, yes, but it's also unforgiving. Montana is a land of extremes. For those who love adventure, it's paradise, but for everyone else, it's just too empty, too remote, and too harsh. Number 7, Rhode Island. Rhode Island, a place where history, charm, and ocean breezes collide. But here's a mystery for you. This state, known for its dense population and tight-knit communities, has been losing residents year after year. Why? Why? What's driving people away? Is it the economy, the rising costs of living, or is there something else, a deeper story behind the quiet streets and shuttered businesses? Let's dive in and uncover the truth about one of America's most intriguing states. To understand Rhode Island today, we need to look back. For centuries, this state was a hub of innovation and industry, thriving on textiles, shipping, and manufacturing. But as times changed, the industries that built this state vanished, leaving behind a void. Its geography, once its greatest strength, is now part of its challenge. With major cities like Boston and New York just a short drive away, Rhode Island struggles to compete. Why build a career or a life here when bigger opportunities are just across the border? So why are people leaving Rhode Island? First, let's talk about the cost of living. Housing prices here have skyrocketed, rivaling those of major metropolitan areas. For many residents, the math just doesn't work. Second, the job market. While the state has strong industries in healthcare and education, it lacks the tech jobs and innovation hubs that younger generations crave. For millennials and Gen Z, Rhode Island feels stuck. And then there's the perception, a feeling that Rhode Island has been overshadowed by its larger neighbors. This sense of being too small or too limited pushes people to look elsewhere. Life in Rhode Island has its moments. The seafood is unparalleled, the coastal views are stunning, and the pace of life is slower, calmer. For some, it's paradise, but for others, it's a place where dreams feel harder to achieve. For those who love it, Rhode Island offers a connection to history, community, and tradition. But for many, especially the young and ambitious, it's a place to visit, not to stay. Here's a question for you. How big do you think Rhode Island is compared to the other states in America? Hint, the answer might surprise you. Drop your guesses in the comments below. Now, could you thrive here? Could you trade the fast pace of a big city for the charm of a tight-knit coastal community? Let us know. There's a fear that lingers in the quiet streets of Rhode Island, a fear of irrelevance. As bigger cities grow, expand, and evolve, the state risks being left behind, its history overshadowed by a future it can't seem to catch. Rhode Island is more than just a small state. It's a place of deep roots, enduring charm, and undeniable challenges. The question is, can it reclaim its place in the American story, or will it remain a stepping stone for those chasing bigger dreams? Moving on to Delaware. Delaware, a state of contrasts. It's home to pristine beaches, quiet towns, and over 2 million corporations. Yes, you heard that right, more companies than people. But for all its tax-friendly laws and beachside charm, Delaware faces a strange paradox. Why does it lack the vibrant cities and thriving population you'd expect from such a strategic location? Today, Delaware is known for two things, its beaches and its businesses. But dig a little deeper and you'll find a state grappling with an identity crisis. Is it a haven for retirees? A tax shelter? Or something more? Let's explore the quiet story of Delaware. Delaware's geography is both a blessing and a curse. Nestled between some of the East Coast's biggest cities, it's often overlooked, a small state overshadowed by its larger, louder neighbors. While its location should make it a hub of activity, the reality is far more subdued. Wilmington, the state's largest city, has struggled to grow while much of Delaware remains rural and quiet. The question is, why? Let's break it down. First, Delaware's economy. While it's a magnet for corporations thanks to its tax laws, those companies don't create many jobs locally. The result, a state with plenty of businesses on paper but fewer opportunities for its residents. Second, Delaware's small size. With just 1,948 square miles, there's little room for large-scale development or major cities. And third, its proximity to bigger, more exciting places. Why settle in Delaware when Philadelphia or Baltimore is just a short drive away? For retirees, Delaware's paradise. Low taxes, beautiful beaches, and a slower pace of life make it the perfect place to settle down. But for younger people, the story is different. The lack of nightlife, limited job opportunities, and small-town feel often drive them elsewhere. Delaware is a place you grow up in or grow old in, but for many it's not a place to build a future. Could you find happiness in Delaware? Could you embrace the quiet, tax-friendly life of the first state? Share your thoughts in the comments. Delaware is a state caught between the past and the future. Its beaches and tax laws have kept it afloat, but its lack of growth raises questions about its long-term relevance. Can it adapt to the modern world, or will it become a state people pass through rather than a place they call home? Delaware is small, quiet, and unique. For some, it's the perfect retreat. For others, it's simply too small to matter. What do you think? Could Delaware ever become a destination for more than just businesses and retirees? Let us know in the comments. Number 5. South Dakota. South Dakota, the land of endless skies, rolling prairies, and one of America's most iconic landmarks, Mount Rushmore. At first glance, it's a postcard-perfect destination. But here's the question, why is it so empty? Despite its beauty and historical significance, fewer than 1 million people call this vast state home. That's less than the population of Jacksonville, Florida. What's keeping people away? Let's uncover the truth behind South Dakota's emptiness. South Dakota is the 5th smallest state by population, but it's far from small in size. Its land area is larger than Florida's, yet its population density is a fraction of the Sunshine State's. Why? It comes down to a mix of history, geography, and opportunity, or the lack thereof. This state was once a hub for pioneers and settlers, drawn by the promise of fertile land and a fresh start. But as the years passed, challenges piled up: harsh winters, limited resources, and the isolation of living so far from major cities. For many, the dream turned into a struggle. So what keeps people away from South Dakota? Let's break it down. First, there's the weather. Winters here are brutal: freezing temperatures, biting winds, and snowstorms that can shut down entire towns. For those who stay, every winter feels like a battle. Second, the economy. While agriculture and tourism are the backbone of the state, they don't offer enough diversity or high-paying jobs to attract younger generations. Many young people leave for college and never come back. Third, there's the isolation. For many residents, the nearest hospital, grocery store, or even gas station is miles away. In a world where convenience is king, South Dakota often feels like it's been left behind. Life in South Dakota is simple and hard in equal measure. For those who choose to stay, it's a life of connection to the land, to tradition, and to community. But it's not for everyone. The pace of life here is slow, and for some, that's its greatest appeal. But for others, especially younger generations, it can feel stifling, cut off from the fast-paced opportunities of larger cities. Could you thrive in South Dakota? Could you trade convenience for solitude and beauty? Tell us in the comments, would you stay here or would you go? There's a loneliness to South Dakota that's hard to ignore. For those who love it, it's peaceful. But for others, the emptiness can feel overwhelming. What would it take for you to call this place home? South Dakota is a land of contrasts. Its beauty is undeniable, but its challenges are just as real. For those who choose to stay, it's a testament to resilience. But for everyone else, it remains one of America's great empty frontiers. The next on our list is North Dakota. North Dakota, a state of extremes, freezing winters, scorching summers, and some of the emptiest landscapes in America. But here's the question: why does almost nobody live here? With just 780,000 residents, North Dakota has fewer people than Austin, Texas. Yet, it's a state rich in oil, farmland, and potential. So what's keeping people away? Let's find out. North Dakota's story is one of opportunity and hardship. On paper, it's a land of promise, fertile soil, abundant oil reserves, and plenty of space to grow. But in reality, the challenges are just as vast as the land itself. For decades, North Dakota has faced the same problem: how to turn its natural wealth into lasting prosperity. And for many, the answer has been to leave. So what drives people away from North Dakota? First, let's talk about the winters. Temperatures here regularly dip below 30 degrees Fahrenheit, with snow and ice making travel nearly impossible. It's not just cold, it's life-altering. Second, the isolation. North Dakota's small towns are spread far apart, and even its largest cities like Fargo feel more like oversized suburbs. For many, the sense of community isn't enough to make up for the lack of amenities. And finally, the economy. While oil booms have brought periods of growth, they've also created instability. When the oil market crashes, so does much of North Dakota's prosperity. Life in North Dakota is defined by the seasons. Summers are short but beautiful, with endless fields of sunflowers and wheat. But winters are long, dark, and unforgiving. For those who stay, it's a life of resilience. Neighbors look out for one another, and community ties run deep. But for many, the isolation and harsh conditions are simply too much. Could you endure a North Dakota winter? Could you find beauty in the stillness and peace in the solitude? Share your thoughts in the comments. Would you stay here or would you go? There's a harshness to North Dakota that few can handle. For some, it's invigorating, a test of strength. But for others, it's a reminder of how unforgiving nature can be. North Dakota is a state of opportunity and extremes. For those who embrace it, it's a land of quiet beauty and potential. But for everyone else, it remains a frozen frontier waiting to be rediscovered. Okay, number 3, Alaska. Alaska, the last frontier, a land so vast and untamed it dwarfs entire countries. Spanning over 665,000 square miles, it's bigger than Texas, California, and Montana combined. Yet, despite its size, less than 750,000 people call it home. Why? Is it the isolation? The freezing winters? Or is there something deeper, something hidden beneath the icy surface of this breathtaking wilderness? Stay tuned because Alaska's story is as wild and mysterious as the land itself. Alaska is unlike any other state in America. It's a land of extremes, where the sun doesn't set in summer and barely rises in winter, where temperatures can plummet to 50 degrees Fahrenheit, and where the wilderness is both breathtaking and unforgiving. For some, it's paradise. For others, it's a test of endurance. But living in Alaska isn't just about surviving the elements, it's about adapting to a way of life that's isolated, expensive, and often unpredictable. And for most people, the challenges outweigh the rewards. So why don't more people live in Alaska? Let's break it down. First, there's the cost of living. Almost everything in Alaska has to be imported, which means groceries, gas, and other essentials are far more expensive than in the lower 48. Second, there's the weather. Alaska's winters are long and dark, with some areas experiencing only a few hours of daylight for months at a time. For many, the lack of sunlight leads to seasonal depression, making it hard to endure. And finally, there's the isolation. Many Alaskan towns are so remote, they're only accessible by plane or boat. If something goes wrong, whether it's a medical emergency or a car breaking down, help can be hours or even days away. Life in Alaska is not for the faint of heart. Every day is a balance between embracing the beauty of the wilderness and preparing for its challenges. It's a life of self-reliance, resilience, and a deep connection to nature. For those who thrive here, Alaska offers a sense of freedom and adventure that's unmatched. But for many, the hardships are simply too great. Could you survive in Alaska? Could you embrace the long winters, high costs, and isolation for a chance to live in one of the most beautiful places on Earth? Tell us in the comments, would you stay or would you go? Isolation? In Alaska, it's not just a feeling, it's a reality. For some, it's peaceful. For others, it's overwhelming. What would it take for you to call this place home? Alaska is a land of contrasts. Its beauty is unmatched, but so are its challenges. For those who choose to stay, it's a life of adventure and resilience. But for everyone else, it remains a frozen frontier waiting to be explored. Number 2, Vermont. Vermont, a state where life slows down, where covered bridges cross babbling brooks, and where maple syrup flows as freely as the seasons change. But here's the question: why, in such a picturesque place, do fewer than 650,000 people choose to live? Is it the rural lifestyle, the harsh winters, or something else entirely? Today we're diving deep into the story of Vermont, a state of beauty, tradition, and quiet struggles. Vermont is the very definition of rural. With more cows than people, it's a place where small towns reign and urban centers are almost non-existent. For some, that's its greatest charm. For others, it's a deal breaker. But Vermont's rural charm comes with its own set of challenges: limited job opportunities, long winters, and a lifestyle that feels too slow for many. For every person who falls in love with Vermont, there's someone else who can't wait to leave. So why do people leave Vermont? First, let's talk about jobs. While Vermont is known for its agriculture and tourism, it doesn't offer the same career opportunities as larger states. Many young people leave for college and never come back. Second, there's the weather. Vermont's winters are long and cold, with heavy snowfall that can make daily life a challenge. For those who aren't prepared, it's a deal breaker. Life in Vermont is peaceful and slow. It's a place where you can enjoy the simple pleasures: walking through the woods, picking apples, and watching the seasons change. But for many, that simplicity can feel isolating. For those who love Vermont, it's a way of life. But for others, it's a place that's too small, too slow, and too quiet. Could you thrive in Vermont? Could you trade city life for the beauty of the Green Mountains and the charm of small-town living? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Vermont is a place where time seems to stand still. For some, it's peaceful. For others, it's a reminder of what they're leaving behind. Could you find happiness here, or would you feel like you're missing out on something bigger? Vermont is a state of beauty, simplicity, and tradition. For those who stay, it's a place of deep connection. But for everyone else, it's a reminder that sometimes even the most beautiful places can feel too small. And last but not the least, Wyoming. To understand Wyoming, you have to start with its contrasts. It's a state of extremes where jagged peaks meet vast deserts, where the silence can be both soothing and haunting. It's the ultimate frontier, a place where the land feels bigger than the people. But here's the conflict: Wyoming's beauty comes at a cost. Its isolation, harsh winters, and limited opportunities make it one of the toughest places to live. For every person who calls it home, countless others pass through, leaving Wyoming's vast spaces even emptier. So why don't people stay in Wyoming? Let's break it down. First, there's the isolation. Wyoming is the second least densely populated state with just 6 people per square mile. For many, that kind of solitude is hard to handle. Second, there's the economy. Wyoming's biggest industries are agriculture, energy, and tourism. While these sectors are vital, they don't provide the kind of job diversity or high wages that attract younger generations. The result? Many young people leave for college and never come back. And then there's the weather. Winters in Wyoming are brutal, freezing temperatures, heavy snow, and winds that can reach up to 70 miles per hour. For those unprepared, it's a harsh reminder of just how wild this state can be. Life in Wyoming is as raw and rugged as the land itself. For ranchers, farmers, and outdoor enthusiasts, it's a dream come true. But for everyone else, it can feel like a challenge you didn't sign up for. For those who stay, community becomes everything. In Wyoming, your neighbors are more than just acquaintances, they're lifelines. It's a place where people look out for one another because the land doesn't always. Here's a challenge for you. Could you live here? Could you trade the convenience of city life for the wide open spaces and untamed beauty of Wyoming? Let us know in the comments, would you stay or would you go? There's something both freeing and frightening about Wyoming's solitude. For some, it's a chance to reconnect with nature, to escape the noise of modern life. But for others, it's a stark reminder of how small we really are. Could you find peace here, or would the silence become too loud? Wyoming's history is as vast as its land. From the Native American tribes who first called it home, to the pioneers who braved its harsh conditions, to the modern-day ranchers and conservationists fighting to preserve its legacy, Wyoming's story is one of resilience. And then there's Yellowstone. America's first national park is Wyoming's crown jewel, drawing millions of visitors every year. But even here, the beauty hides challenges: unpredictable weather, wildlife encounters, and the ever-present risk of the supervolcano beneath. Let's turn it over to you. What do you think would be the hardest part of living in Wyoming? The isolation, the weather, or something else entirely? Type your answers in the comments. We'd love to hear your perspective. Here's the twist. While Wyoming may seem empty, it's full of potential. From its growing tourism industry to its renewable energy projects, this state is quietly carving out a new future. For those willing to embrace the challenge, Wyoming offers a chance to be part of something bigger, to help shape the next chapter of the American frontier. Living in Wyoming isn't easy. It takes grit, determination, and a deep respect for the land. But for those who stay, it's a testament to the human spirit, a reminder that sometimes the hardest places to live are the ones worth fighting for. Wyoming is more than just a state, it's a symbol of what it means to be free, to live boldly, and to embrace the wild. For those who dare to stay, it's a life of beauty and resilience. And for everyone else, it's a reminder that some frontiers are meant to remain untamed. From the frozen frontiers of Alaska to the quiet beauty of Vermont, and from the vast solitude of Montana to the rugged plains of Wyoming, these empty states tell a story of resilience, challenge, and untapped potential. Each state holds a secret, a reason why so few choose to stay, yet why those who do wouldn't live anywhere else. But here's the question. Which of these states would you dare to call home?